because of negative states of mind which will build up as a result of that particular action.
First spoon of rice that is wholesomely prepared for the monks who come at the new dawn.
Then you become the queen among the queens of the flowers.
My day would almost always go better. Obviously, meditation can't control everything in life.
Fix the right arm and lower the left elbow and turn a little bit.
Once again, welcome back to Meditation for All. We have a great program ahead of us today. First of all, I'd like to remind you that we're now halfway through our mini-series on self-development. And I hope that all of you are now adept at using meditation and knowledge from within to bring about positive changes in yourself and those around you. Today's lesson shall help you strengthen the character you've built since the very beginning of our mini-series.
Welcome back to our mini-series on meditation and self-development. Last time we learned about the demons which can come from possible weaknesses in our own mind as a result of the defilements of greed, hatred and delusion which may be lurking there. We found out that these defilements can interfere with our decision-making process in some cases. And last time we also advocated having principles in our decision-making to help us to avoid succumbing to the power of these defilements in the mind. Well, this week it's not too late to start talking about what those principles actually consist of. And later on in the program we're going to look at a total of 10 different ways to help us make decisions in different situations. In fact, when you look at a situation, you can describe the situation as either positive, neutral, or negative, as it concerns our ability to make progress in meditation. A positive situation would be the sort of thing which generates the richness of mind which will allow us to go further in our meditation. A neutral situation would be one which doesn't affect our meditation either positively or negatively. Maybe it's just a way of using up our time. A negative situation will be the result of a decision which will upset your ability to make progress in meditation at all. Maybe because of negative states of mind which will build up as a result of that particular action. So what we're going to be looking at in this program today is how to measure whether a decision in a situation will give rise to either a negative, neutral, or a positive situation as a result of the decision which we might make. Because for any sort of action in the world, there are many ways in which you can describe the nature of that action. Some particular scenarios, we may have a feeling that it may be a good thing to do or a bad thing to do in that situation. But sometimes it's hard to put our finger on exactly why we consider it to be a positive or a negative decision in such a situation. Sometimes if you ask for the principles which people make their decisions on, you get as many answers as there are people. But what we'll try to look at today is a more structured way of decision making, a way by which you can actually plan ahead and have some certainty about the decisions you're making, so that the decisions you make can be ones which are going to supplement and enhance your ability to meditate well. Any situation can be looked at in many different ways. Let's take an example first of all of perhaps giving a meal of food to the late Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who of course we know is a very outstanding woman who has done a lot for society, especially in the poverty-stricken areas of India. Supposing you were to give Mother Teresa a plate of food. A very simple person might justify that, saying it's a positive thing to do, because we know that by eating a plate of food, then Mother Teresa at least will be saved from starvation for another day. It's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but that would be a way of measuring our decision in terms of thinking of the benefit to others. Another person may look at the same situation and say, giving a plate of food is a very positive thing. Why? Not for Mother Teresa's benefit, but for the benefit of all the people who she will help as a result of the strength she gets from the food. In this particular case, measuring the decision is in terms of the benefit that the plate of food will give to society as a whole. A third way of looking at the situation might be to look at not the benefits which the food will give, but in fact the intention behind the person giving the food in the first place. They can see that if the person can be able to let go of the food, perhaps the possible hunger or the temptation to eat it for themselves, then that person is being able to relinquish the power of greed or stinginess in their own mind, which does improve the quality of their mind. So this would be looking at the situation in terms of intention. Another person might look at the same situation and again come to a different conclusion, that if a person can afford to be generous, and if that person can have such a positive intention in their mind, then this will be a thing which in the future will lead that person to be given to by others, because it's said that a person who gives is loved by others. A person who gives will receive in return. So in this particular situation, we're looking at the scenario in terms of doing an action which we will not regret at a later date. Last but not least, there may be the meditators amongst us who, giving such a plate of food to Mother Teresa, find that their own mind is illuminated more inside than it was before. This arising of illumination in the mind would say that in fact it's a positive situation. But the way that we measure the positive situation in this scenario is that it gives more illumination to the mind itself. So we can see now that even for the same situation, you can look at it in many different ways, and there may be possibly different principles which you can use in the same situation to decide whether it's a good or a bad decision you're making about it. It's rather like a medicine cabinet. Because there are many different diseases, then there are also many different medicines to treat the diseases. Some sorts of medicine, if you apply them to the wrong diseases, can give a very dangerous result. Try, for example, putting foot ointment in your eye. Although foot ointment is good in itself and it's good for treating bad toenails, but if you put it in your eye, it may make you blind. In the same way with decision making, if you use the wrong sort of decision making tool in the wrong situation, then it may give also an unreliable result. So it's best to be able to apply the right decision-making principle to the right situation, and we'll try to talk about these as we go along, because there's a total of 10 different ways of making decisions which we have at our disposal. The first way I'd like to talk about is the intention behind the decision. Supposing we're making a decision and we find that the decision we make is based in terms of not being under the influence of the defilements in the mind. So that means that the decision we make is not based on greed, not based on hatred, and not based on delusion. Then the chances are that that decision will be a good decision. Sometimes our actions may not be clear. Sometimes it's only the intention behind the actions which is apparent to us. For example, if children sharing out a cake take a bigger helping for themselves than they give to their friends, although it's not bad or evil, their action, but it does show that they have greed in their minds. And this would tell us that in fact that those children are making a decision which is unfavorable to their meditation progress. So even the presence of greed, hatred, or delusion in our decision already tells us that it's a bad decision. However, decisions where there is no influence by greed, hatred, or delusion, then the chances are that these sort of decisions are in fact positive, or at the very least neutral decisions. A second way of deciding about a decision is looking at whether it illuminates or darkens our mind. For those of you who by now are regular meditators, will start to see illumination inside yourself, maybe not only when you're meditating, but also during the day with your eyes open, you still have an awareness of the illumination in your mind. If you find that you're about to make a decision and you find that the brightness in your mind starts to disappear, then the chances are that the decision you're about to take is an erroneous one. However, the sort of decisions which you might make which actually add to the illumination in your mind, well, these may be the sort of things you should be doing more often. The third sort of decision-making principle I'd like to talk about is in terms of the outcomes of the decision. You may regret an action at a later date, or you may be happy with an action at a later date. A later date here might mean an hour in the future, a week in the future, maybe tens of years in the future, who knows, maybe even the next lifetime. If you have some inkling that in the future you may regret a decision, then this is something which you should avoid at all costs. It helps us to realize that some of the work we do, some of the actions which we do which are difficult in the beginning, things like, for example, doing our revision for our examinations since early in the year, it may be hard work in the beginning, but in the end you will not regret that you've done that work. So this is a good principle to use for this sort of decision making where you are talking about the actions which may give their fruits at a later date, where there is some time lag between the work which we do and seeing the fruits of our labors. A fourth way of making decisions is to measure up our decisions in terms of what we call the 5 precepts. 5 precepts, if you can remember, are 5 actions which take advantages of the weaknesses in ourselves or in others. For example, we know very well that the things which people love the most in the world are their own lives, their possessions, their own spouse, and the love of the truth. We also know that our own mind can be very sensitive to the negative influence of intoxicants, which may cloud the mind or allow us not to use our conscience to the full. So this is why we have 5 precepts as a very clear and very concrete guideline to show that killing other people or animals, stealing, committing adultery, telling lies, or taking alcohol or other intoxicants like drugs or even cigarettes, these can be things which are going to interfere with our quality of mind for sure. So if you want a very clear rule of thumb, then measuring your own actions up to the 5 precepts is a very clear way of making a decision about whether an action in a particular situation is going to be positive or negative for you and other people. If it does conflict with the 5 precepts, then the chances are that it's certainly negative. However, if it does not conflict with the 5 precepts, then the chances are that it's at least neutral and possibly positive. But if you want to go beyond the 5 precepts, then there are another set of virtues which go with the 5 precepts, which go over and beyond, which are called the 5 virtues. And if you'd like to look at what these 5 virtues comprise, we find that any sort of action which fits in with either generosity, fits in with compassion, fits in with contentment with one's own spouse, fits in with truthfulness, and which fits in with mindfulness, then the chances are that that sort of decision, the decision to do those 5 categories of action, will in fact be very positive for us and our quality of mind. If we go a little further to look at the next way of looking at decisions, this is where we start to come more into the social sphere. With 5 precepts, we're already talking partially about the decisions which affect other people, but in this particular case, we ought to be looking at also situations which not only we don't regret, but also which others don't regret at a later date. This is something which, if we can appreciate the feelings of others, then we ought to be always taking into account whenever our actions affect other people's lives. Really, the sort of decisions which we should be looking for are decisions which, when put into action, would bring neither us nor others regret at a later date. If we are regretting at a later date, even if the other people aren't, then we should still not do that thing. If the other people don't regret it but we do, then again that's not worth doing. And if both of us regret it, then certainly we should stay away from that sort of action. Apart from regrets, another way of looking at actions in the social context is to look at the benefit which comes from the action. Often we hear in modern management terminology about a win-win situation. This is talking about the benefits which come from the outcome of the decisions which we make. If both of us win, that is, we win and they win as a result of a situation which we have decided, then that is worth doing. However, if only we win and they don't, or they win and we don't, or neither of us win, then these are the sort of actions which we ought to be avoiding if at all possible. In a wider social context, sometimes we have factors coming into our decision making which we haven't talked about so far. If you talk about actions which may on a personal level seem beneficial but on a social level are not beneficial, then Sometimes, if it's in the social sphere, we have to give up our selfish interest in order for the greater and wider social benefit. This can take place, for example, when we have to neglect maybe the interests of ourselves or our families in order to do something positive for the wider society. Supposing our society is affected by the plague and the government calls upon volunteers to help out with treating the other people in society so that the plague doesn't spread to us and our family, then we'd be better off to put our time in to help society as a whole rather than locking ourselves up in our house and ignoring the situation. This would be a case in which using our altruism to help society as a whole may be the better thing to do in case that the social situation is a bad one. So sometimes we have to take the social situation into account as well. So far we've talked about 7 different ways of making decisions. In fact, there are more than this, but I'm only going to mention them as headings in passing today. The other decisions which we're talking about are possibly the spiritual decisions in life, which we're going to be talking about in 2 weeks' time with what we call the mention of the Noble Eightfold Path. There are also the factor of not contradicting precepts, virtue, custom, or the law, which can take place in certain situations where it's not clear to us what is right in a social situation. And last but not least, we have the 38 blessings, which is a very long and complex topic, which I don't have time to go into today, but maybe at a later date, which is a very interactive way of looking at whether a decision is positive or not in a situation. Last but not least, some people sometimes ask why we cannot just use the law as a way to decide whether a decision made by a person is positive or negative. Well, as we've already mentioned, even intention can sometimes upset our ability to meditate. Even the things we say can sometimes upset our ability to meditate. Usually the law only steps in when it comes to actions which we do against others which has evidence. And sometimes even the law can make mistakes. If we don't have a witness, then it's very hard to prosecute. But what we're talking about in terms of our meditation practice is often actions which are very private, actions which no one else sees us doing, but which can affect the quality of our own mind. So this is why we cannot rely merely upon the law as the guideline which we need when we are making decisions. So today we have run very, very quickly through a total of 10 different guidelines which we can use for making decisions about what is either negative, neutral, or positive in the way it may affect our ability to meditate. Maybe during this week you might like to observe yourself when you are making decisions to see what sort of principles you are using when you come to make decisions about what you're going to do in your life. You may find that your principles are not as clear as you originally thought, in which case you might try using some of the principles we've been talking about today. Next week we're going to be going on to look at the way in which we treat other people, especially relating to the things that we say to other people, to see how these can affect also our potential to be able to make progress in our meditation. So in the meantime, keep up with your meditation and try to be observant about yourself in the week to come, and I'll be seeing you again at the same time next week.
Next on Buddhist Culture, you will see the continuation of our story on the morning rise. You also learn and understand more about the Buddhist nature of giving as the first errand in a day's life.
The essence of almsgiving is the rice. Rice has to be cooked fresh and hot, spreading its fragrance throughout the whole house. old rice cooking pot, the fresh cooked rice, for the new morning, for everyone in the house. The morning rice. The first spoon of rice of the new morning is only for the Holy One. The first spoon of rice that is wholesomely prepared for the monks who come at the new dawn demonstrates the faith of Buddhists who wish to lift Buddhism up as the crown of their own lives. The morning rice is for paying respect to the Lord Buddha, for his Dharma teaching of the ultimate truth of life, and for paying gratitude towards monks who practice and preserve this guiding light. Buddhists consider the offering of alms food to be the first fundamental thing to do each day in order to bring bliss to their new day and to extend the life of Buddhism. The values of this Buddhist culture is comparable to the sunlight that nourishes the life of all beings.
Last week, you were introduced to the concept of using soft music as a meditation tool. For those of you who find it helpful, you can also try using this technique as means to help you relax and get you in the mood for meditation. It is now time for us to meditate with Reverend Somsak Biyasiro.
This is meditation time. Let's enjoy meditation together. Welcome to session 5 of part 2. So we have seen roses together, right? They are so beautiful, aren't they? Roses are just queen among other flowers. They are so beautiful and hold sweet essence and good smell, good scent. I have a story from my friend. She's older than I am. She's always called an auntie. She has a beautiful story about a little girl. One day that little girl was so sad, so she ran out crying to see her teacher. The teacher lives in a house with the garden of roses on the backyard. So the teacher took the little girl, said, "Come on, my dear." The teacher gave her a sweet kiss and then said to her, "Come on, my dear, roses are beautiful. They love to look at you, but when you cry, all the roses feel also sad about this. Come on, stay in the middle of hundreds of roses. Then you become the queen among the queens of the flowers. Smile at them, they'll be happy. Get the good essence, the sweetness of the roses to get into you. You'll be happier. Let the sweetness of the flowers soothe your pain away." This is a little technique to soothe the pain, tension, and all the troubles of life by turning your life to the essence of the nature. Roses hold sweetness, beauty, and all the beauty of everything in them. So be part of them. Enjoy the beauty of being part of the rose. Last time we talked about how to reduce tension and all the troubles or the problems. This time we can do that again. Reduce them by turning ourselves to be part of the sweetness. Pretty soon we shall meditate together. Find a comfortable corner that you like best in your home. Choose the most comfortable sitting posture you prefer. You can sit on a chair, on the pillow, on the floor, in any other corners of your furnitures. And keep your back straight. Drink a cup of lukewarm water if you want to. And breathe deeply. I guess you are about to be ready now. Let's start meditation together. Feel relaxed to meditate. Don't pay too much attention or feel too much excitement, too much excited to meditate. Relax and then close the eyes. Simply close the eyes. Don't press the eyelids tight. Just allow them just about to be closed. Relax the muscles around the eyes. Soften the area around the eyes. The forehead, the cheeks, and the jaws. Allow these areas to be relaxed. Feel as if the entire body is fully relaxed, flooded by the stream of perfect relaxation. A few good deep breaths will help relax. On the in-breath, the body and the mind is refreshed. On the out-breath, they are relaxed, refreshed and relaxed repeatedly. Let the whole parts of the body, from head down to heels, let them all relaxed. Feel relaxation all around. Let go all the tensions, all the physical tiredness. What we have now is perfect relaxation. Remember the turning point we have mentioned so many times. Breathe in deep until the end of the in-breath touches, reaches the turning point. The turning point now is at the center of the body that we have touched. The mind is greeting the turning point inside. The mind addresses the existence of the turning point. We just stay over there for the coming moment. Stay still, even though at the beginning the mind might move here and there, but we remain calm and peaceful over the turning point. Remember the story of the rose and the little girl. Imagine as if we are now sitting among hundreds of beautiful roses. Absorb the sweet essence and the petals of the roses. Receive and welcome all the sweet quality of the roses. Remain in the middle, in the center of hundreds of roses. Enjoy peace among the roses. In Buddhism, the shape of the mind is stated, explained as a sphere form. A sphere form is so bright, clean, and clear. So we witness the emergence and then the existence of the bright, crystal clear, clean, shining crystal ball. The crystal ball will stay over onto the turning point. Observe the mind in the form of the crystal ball. The mind is inside, at home. We can call the turning point as the home of the mind. When the mind is at home, the mind is happy and relaxed. The mind feels at home when it stays at home. Enjoy a still quietness. Enjoy peaceful stillness at home. Enjoy observing the mind, which is round, clean and clear, as bright as crystal, existing at home. Use a sweet feeling to monitor the existence of the crystal ball. We shall avoid using force to fix the form and the focus of the crystal ball. Instead of using force, we use the sweet feeling. We get sweet feeling from the experience of the rose. The sweetness of the rose is taking over the feeling to feel, to observe the round mind. Just stay there in deep sweetness and quietness. The turning point where the crystal ball is shining still is just the landmark where we can come back at any time. This is the landmark of the mind. We can come back easily here because it is outstanding, because it is the landmark of the mind. Sometimes we forget to stay at home. We can come back at any time. The existence of the shining crystal ball with the sweetness of the roses is so clear for us to come back home at any time. Now we come back home and stay at home always. Every time we feel less happy, and sometimes we feel unhappy, sad and down, we can come back here. Let the sweetness of the center soothe our pain away. The center is our best friend that can help us reduce, soothe the pain. We shall not cry anymore because the best friend is ready to help us at any time. We always have peace at the center point. This is the station of peace. True peace is inner peace, and inner peace will radiate to create peace everywhere. Let's share, let's give away peace of mind by expanding the feeling of happiness in the center. Expansion is radiation of happiness. The crystal ball may grow bigger. It could expand, bigger radius, expand automatically to share inner peace to everyone. Let our inner peace touch the heart of all mankind. Soften all the hearts of all human. Let peace prevail on earth, starting from the center of our body. So the mind is expanding softly, endlessly everywhere. We're just sitting in the center of that big sphere of the mind. Now we are happy, and everyone else will be happy all together. Take a deep breath again, and just prepare to open the eyes slowly. So the moment of peace will happen every time we rest at the home base of the mind. Meditation is the only key that will bring our mind back home to the station of peace. So practice meditation often for the benefits of your own self. So peace starts from yourself and then get connected, radiated to others. Until we meet again in the next session, have a good time, have a good meditation experience. See you later. สวัสดี
Next up, we will hear about the meditation experience of Dr. Aaron Stern. Although he found it very difficult at first, he discovered that meditation has helped him raise his level of concentration and awareness and helped him achieve a state of mental clarity. Let's hear it from him.
Hi, my name is Aaron Stern, and I'm here today with, this is my daughter Arin, or her Thai nickname is Nong Jai, or Nong Jai Sai. And we're here, or perhaps I'm here, better to say that, here to talk to you a little bit about meditation. Perhaps Arin will contribute a little bit, but I don't think she will today. But what I wanted to say first is that I'm a graduate of the University of Michigan. I just completed my doctorate there quite recently. And I think it's safe to say that in a program like that, Michigan is a difficult school, a doctorate is a stressful experience, and meditation is something that I think helped me get through the program and helped me, more than just get through the program, really become a kind of better person, more settled, more stable, and more aware of what I'm doing. So I guess I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my experience up to the present and give you a sense of why it is that I think meditation is such a useful and kind of important practical thing to do for people, not just of course in my situation, but for anyone, whatever level of stress or relaxation you have in your life. Meditation for me was something that I first had an experience with it in 1990 actually, in Thailand. At the time I was teaching English, and I became very interested in sort of Buddhism. I was just curious about it. I wanted to know what it was. I wanted to have a better understanding of what was involved. And I found out that there was a temple in the northeastern part of Thailand that I could go to, and I could spend a couple of weeks there and learn what Buddhism was about. And one thing that I learned was that Buddhism has many different aspects, but one of the most critical aspects of it is meditation. And I spent a lot of time in 1992, I should say, early 92, meditating at this temple. And it was a wonderful experience for me. It was difficult at first because I had never done anything like this before. But in the end, what I found was that I achieved a kind of mental clarity, a level of concentration, and a feeling of just I don't know, maybe self-awareness and a feeling of being relaxed, which I had never experienced before in my life. I'd never had that, even whether it was from a good night's sleep or whether having accomplished some major task. This kind of feeling had never been with me and really been sustained for that kind of period. And so I left this temple, and I tried to continue some of the meditation, but after a while I became busy, I became rather distant from it, and so I kind of let it slide. But when I started my doctorate in 1998, the program, as I said, was quite stressful. I was teaching classes, I was trying to pass certain kinds of exams, I was taking courses, I was trying to always a constant search for money. And what ended up happening was, are you finding this interesting, Arun? Okay. What ended up happening was that realized that I needed something to slow myself down in a sense. Instead of constantly being busy, instead of constantly moving, constantly thinking, constantly trying to do whatever was on my list of things to do for the day, I found what was important to do is actually to stop the mind, which is a very important part of meditation. You want to make the mind clear of all these sort of jumble of thoughts, jumble of responsibilities and things that you have to do over the course of any given day, and just let your mind clear and let yourself go and let your body relax and your mind relax along with it. This is an important part of meditation. I'm not saying this is easy to do. It was very, very difficult for me. It took me a long, long time to get to a point where I could just relax my mind even for 5 or 10 minutes. People say that it's difficult to find 5 or 10 minutes in a day sometimes to sit down, but believe me, if you think about it and you put a little bit of willpower into it, you can find 5 or 10 minutes. All you have to do is maybe wake up 5 or 10 minutes earlier than you normally do, which is what I started doing, except eventually I started waking up about 30 minutes and 40 minutes and 1 hour before I would normally wake up before I started meditating. What I found was that by meditating it was a wonderful way for me to start my day. It was a way for me to, in a sense, get up before this massive jumble of responsibilities and thoughts and worries and anxieties would enter my mind. I could sit down in the morning, very quiet, before anybody else got up, and meditate. And the way I would do that is I would usually stretch to make my body a little more relaxed so that my muscles weren't very tense. And then I'd sit down and usually meditate for perhaps a half an hour, on a good day, maybe 40, 45 minutes. And what ended up happening was that if I started my day this way, my day would almost always go better. Obviously, meditation can't control everything in life. There are certain external forces that come into play. But it was amazing for me to find that when I meditated, I was able to get more done. I was able to do it with a greater level of concentration. My behavior, I didn't forget things as much. I didn't stub my toe on a chair as I'm running out the door. And I could actually communicate better with my family and my wife. And all these things, and I was very surprised about this at first. I thought, well, why would meditation allow me to have these kinds of benefits? And I can't proclaim that I understand exactly why these things are, but I do know that there's a clear relationship between my behavior and whether I meditate in the morning or at some time during the day. And oftentimes I sometimes will meditate at night before I go to bed as well. It's been a real pleasure for me. It's been a real surprise for me to have that kind of experience. And I can sort of really count the days where if I had something, maybe I slept a little bit late and I did have, and I didn't meditate, or I didn't meditate as long as I should have, and the day just did not progress as well as it normally should, or my work didn't go as well. So for me, aside from any spiritual kind of considerations connected with meditation has had real practical benefits for me in my life. And this is something that I can't deny and something I'm very happy about. And as a result, this is why I'm sitting here with my daughter to try and, in a sense, tell you that I think there are real benefits to this. And the hardest part in some ways is to start. And I'm sort of wondering, perhaps when Arun is going to start meditating, although my wife and I, we're trying to get to teach her initially. And I think she'll pick it up eventually. Young children have very kind of flexible, open minds, so it's not a bad time to start when a child is young for meditation. But I started when I was over 30 years old, so that doesn't seem to be any sort of obstacle or anything that would prevent you from engaging in this kind of activity. It's really a wonderful thing. And I guess the kind of last thing I want to say about meditation is that when you start, you're going to feel that your mind is unable to stop, and that can be a very difficult thing. I highly, highly recommend certain kinds of exercises, whether it's yoga or just stretching, to relax the body a bit before you start, because there is a connection between the mind and the body. If your body is more relaxed, you'll find it's easier to relax your mind. This is something that I've found over and over again. And it may require waking up, another 5 or 10 minutes earlier than you normally would in the morning, as I said before, but I believe that the benefits are truly worth it. And once you find a way to make your mind slow down, which for me is still a very difficult thing to do, but once the mind slows down, there's a real feeling of relaxation and a sense of happiness, which is completely internal. That's what's interesting about this, is it's not dependent on any person outside of you. It's not dependent on somebody giving you something. It's not dependent on something telling you something. It's something that you can do on your own, you can achieve on your own internally. And I find that to be sort of amazing and kind of wonderful and practical all at the same time. So I must give credit to meditation for enabling me to get through my program. Would you like to go down and get your rabbit? Very good. So that's really all I would like to say about the benefits of meditation. I know that there are many ways that you can watch this very program and get a lot of useful tips, a lot of useful ideas about how to meditate, how to clear the mind. There are very specific ways that one can do that. It depends to a certain extent on the individual about what works best for the individual. But I will say this, that I've gotten real benefits from it, and I hope that you receive these same benefits as me. So thank you very much for your time. Rin, can we say goodbye to everybody, please? All right, ready? So let's see. Let's sawadika, everyone, okay? Come up and sit. All right, you ready? 1, 2, 3. Sawadika.
As Dr. Stern has suggested, physical relaxation is essential for meditation. So let us now go and exercise with Ms. Wichida Satharanan and Dr. Wishit Gittipong Koson.
As you know that life is a solution between body and mind, eternally twined to each other. This body and mind solution is the beautiful technique to unite and to soothe the whole body and the mind together. Today I would like to bring you to Dr. Wishit Gittipong Koson one more time with his program, Body and Mind Solution, and this is the 5th time. Dr. Wishit and Mam Tom will present to you the posture called releasing the shoulder blade.
Hello, today we are going to introduce the posture to relax the tension on your shoulder blades on both sides. Okay, Nam Tom will show you how. Okay, every time before starting every movement, focus at breathing. Okay, put your hand on your abdomen and then take a deep breath in and slowly out. Breathe in and slowly out. When you breathe in, focus at the turning point of your breath and use that point to be the center of your movement. Put your hand to your side and relax. Take a deep breath in, lift your arms up, both arms up, all the way up. All the way up, and then breathe out, relax. Then fix the right one. Fix the right one and lower the left elbow and turn a little bit backward until you feel stretching on the left shoulder blade. And then lift the left one, fix the left one, and lower the right elbow same until you feel stretching on the right shoulder blade. And then lift the right arm up, 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 all the way up, relax, and lower both arms. And take a deep breath in and out, in and out. Now put your hand to your side. One more time. One more time. Take a deep breath in and out, in and slowly out. Focus at the turning point of your breath. Then put your hand to your side, relax, lift both arms up, forward, up, all the way up, and breathe out. Fix the right arm and lower the left elbow and turn a little bit back until you feel stretching on the left area of your shoulder blade. And then lift your left arm and fix and lower the right one slowly. Please do not force your body. Just do it relaxingly. And then lift the right arm up, stretch, take a deep breath in, slowly breathe out and lower your arms to your side, and take a deep breath in and out. One more time, breathe in and slowly out. And keep your mind focused at the center of your body and feel the circulation along with your both sides of your body on the shoulder blades.
You see that it is really good for releasing the shoulder blade, especially for the computer man. And you know that it also designed for the benefit of head circulation. And believe it or not, it will give you more pleasurable time for early morning toilet because it stimulates the bowel movement. So try it. Good luck and see you next time. สวัสดีค่ะ
We have come to the end of our program and must say goodbye for today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and please don't forget to write your comments and suggestions to our email at meditationforall@hotmail.com. I'll see you again next Sunday. I hope you have a very bright week. สวัสดีค่ะ